Hi everyone, Philip here. Welcome to part 7 of my What's Wrong With Me series. As usual, I do live beside a gas station and Main Street in a very busy college town. I record these as late as possible, but if you hear cars drive by or any noise like that, sometimes the mic picks it up. There's nothing I can do about that, so I want to throw that out there. So, without further ado, let's get into chapter 7 of my series, this one called A Baker's Dozen. For those that are wondering why it's called A Baker's Dozen, this is chronicling the end of my 13-year relationship. I was debating omitting this from the overall story, but in good conscience, I can't tell my 10-year odyssey, my 10-year journey, and then completely skip 2 years of events that happened in a 2-year span of time that was caused by major events and then precipitated major events after the fact. So this isn't a smear campaign, as none of this is. This is just my version of events that happened from 2011 to 2013. As always, there are two sides to every coin, two sides to every story. This is mine. To give some backstory on me and my ex, we met in September of 2000. Our meeting was very serendipitous. I won't go into it in this video, but I think one day in the future I'll tell the story of how we met because it was actually pretty cool. For years and years, it was one of my favorite stories to tell. The story started for the video series in 2009 in Phoenix. We moved to Phoenix in 2004, 2005. So we have been in Phoenix for almost 5 years at this point. We complemented each other nicely, like two puzzle pieces that fit. My ex was very much a head in the clouds kind of guy, and I was very much a feet on the ground kind of guy. We were a good fit, and anyone that knew us and knew us as a couple could attest to that. I have friends to this day that knew both of us from back then and would probably agree that we were one of those couples that you're like, yeah, they work. And it was cool. It was cool to be in that relationship because we were each other's first everything. First relationship, first boyfriends, first everything. And by 2009, we were very much a well-oiled machine. You know, I was working at Blockbuster, making good money, enough for him to go to college, which he always wanted to do. But then, if you've watched the videos up to now, you know everything started to hit the fan, and rapidly. The first accident happened in April of 2009. Moved back to Ohio, stuff with my mom happened. Eventually the person we were living with moved out, we had to find our own place. There was all that stress. And then he gets arrested, goes to jail, check bounces for rent. We get evicted, almost homeless, moving with new family, and here we are. Let's rewind a little bit though, because there's something very important that I think needs to be said out loud for reference for later. After my mom left me with her roommate, July into August 2009, my ex knew how crushed I was. I don't think my mom ever understood, even to this day, I don't think she understands the effect it had on me, especially the considering that I almost died, you know, months prior in a car accident. I remember vividly my ex having a talk with me, looked me right in the eyes, and he said, I will never abandon you. I promise you that I will not abandon you like she did. I want you to remember that. I will never forget the first time seeing him in jail. I go to see him in jail, and it's the whole thing like you see on TV. It's the glass and the phone and the whole nine. And I hadn't seen him since he left that night with the cops and never came back. And I will never, ever forget the look on his face. It was pure panic mixed with fear, mixed with sadness. You could see it on his face that he thought that I was going to leave him. And looking back, maybe I should have. But at that point, you know, we'd been together 11 years. I thought he was my soulmate. I still to this day think he was. I don't think we have just one per lifetime. I think you can have several soulmates. I think the soul is a very dynamic and interesting thing. It's not a one-dimensional thing that's only connected to one other person. So I wasn't going to throw away 11 years for this very, very big series of mistakes. But I was still very upset, and I will never forget the look on his face, as said. Now, this is where things can get tricky. As said in the last video, I did my best to walk on eggshells with the situation of what was going on in the house that I was taken into. I will always be thankful for what they did. They essentially saved me from being homeless, and I will never forget that. So I'm not here to sling mud, but I also can't pretend that what was happening there wasn't happening. I can't pretend that it didn't happen. Again, I'm not discounting anything they did for me. It has to be known. It has to be known that the underlying current in that house was that the dad had a very violent temper. It wasn't the reason for the fracturing of my relationship. I'll never say that. But it was definitely a catalyst, one of the catalysts that contributed to the cracking. I do want to put it out there that the dad was not some tyrant bully all the time. There'd be nights where people were either in bed or just gone because they didn't want to be there, where we would be watching Sunday Night Football together, and it would just be like talking to a completely different person. That guy was a really cool dude to be around. We would have these really cool talks, and he was very genuinely interested in getting to know you and wanting to talk to you. You know, unfortunately, that guy wasn't around all the time, and I wish he was. So all the stuff going on in that house with the family and the very strained dynamic they had, that's all over here. That's going to be the base that I build off of. So that's that. Let's go over to this, back over here. My ex gets out of jail, and he moves back in. I was mad. Mad as being very polite. And he knew I was mad. But, you know, I thought I was upset for good reason. By the time he got out, I was kind of avoiding him. I definitely own up to that. But in my defense on that, I grew up in an abusive household, verbally and physically. And I had taught myself over time to really, I learned early on that I had my mom's temper. And this is one of the things I taught myself. I was internalizing. I was trying to figure it out. Much like the second accident. After the second accident happened, and I went quiet, like stone quiet for like a week, I was working stuff out. I wasn't ignoring people. I wasn't trying to be all super dramatic. I was just trying to figure it out. And that's what I was doing here. I was trying to figure it out. You know, when he asks, why are you distant? Why can't you forgive me? I'm distant for this reason, and I can't forgive you yet because of this reason. But honestly, him saying that to me is really indicative of what was cool about our relationship. The fact that we could be open and honest, and that was probably the strongest part of our relationship, was the communication. But I was doing it because, as I said, I was trying to come to terms with a lot had happened. And it was a lot to digest, and he was back. In the end, we always talked. We always kind of came together and worked things out. Because that's what you do in an adult relationship. I've never been one of those people who understands the mindset of if something's wrong with you, and then someone asks you what's wrong with you, and you say, nothing's wrong. Like, stop that. To me, that is very juvenile. That's very, you're just emotionally messing with people. My rationale behind all of that is, if you cannot communicate like an adult, you do not need to be in an adult relationship. Period. To do anything else is just it's just emotional manipulation. It was gratifying being in a relationship like that, one that didn't have, you know, lies or secrets, because we were always open and honest. Or so I thought. Now, I want it to be known also that the agreement to us living there was an agreement. And the agreement was that while we lived there, we would save up money for a year. And then after a year, we would move out into our own place. I forgot to mention that after my ex got out of jail, he got his job back. They held his job for him, which was actually really cool. They understood. So yeah, he went from, you know, working, jail, boom, out of jail, back to working. So that was really cool of them. So that was part of the agreement, that after a year, we would move out after we saved for said year while living there. That was the entire point of us being there. About 2 months in, the dad asks us if we can start paying $35 a week to help with bills and food and whatnot. I'm not trying to, again, make anybody look bad. These are just the facts of the situation as they happened. The dad was not working. I don't know how long he wasn't working. He wasn't working when I moved in. So essentially, the family lived off of the mom's check. The mom got paid. The dad took the money. It was the dad's money. That's the way it was. But the dad asked us to help out. Of course, we had no problem with that at all. To me, it was the least we could do for everything that they had done for us. So we were at $35 a week for now. And that brings us to the winter months. We're going into November, December. Things started feeling off. My ex was around less and less. Let's see, how can I put this in a way that is respectful to everyone. Bluntly, Justin didn't want to be there. He didn't like being at home, so he wasn't. And since my ex hung out with him all the time, if Justin wasn't there, my ex wasn't there. Then the second accident happened. That's when things really got bad. That was the lowest of lows for me, as far as like physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that. I'm at my just rock bottom after the second accident, and I needed him. I needed him to be that anchor, to just help, steady me. And instead, he just was drifting away. Now, you might be asking, why was your ex hanging out with Justin so much when his boyfriend of 11 years was physically rewound in time to April of 2009, again, when I had regressed completely physically after the second accident? That was not my fault. Let's put a pin in that too. And it wasn't like he wasn't talking to me either. I don't want to make it sound like he was like completely avoiding me. He was just devoting more of his time to not being there, to hanging out with Justin. And when he was home, he was still hanging out with Justin. But found out in January, February of 2012, when he told me that he was in love with Justin. And I said, yeah, I know. I knew early on as well, because me and my ex were very open. As I said, we communicated. We were very, very much, we weren't really the jealous type, either one of us really. And we had that dialogue back and forth. And I knew when he was into someone else, let's just say. Like, not only will he go out of his way to be around that person more, he'll also change things about himself. Like, all of a sudden, he's listening to the Grateful Dead and Pink Floyd and Rush. I'm not saying he didn't like that music before, and that was all he listened to now, because that's what Justin liked. Again, not saying he didn't like that music. I'm just saying he was doing what he was doing on purpose, going out of his way to show that, look, I'm listening to this now too. Look, we have a bond, that kind of thing. And he's very much, I call him a chameleon. At that point in time, I knew him better than anyone did. Anyone. I saw the sides of him that he didn't show anyone else. I should have seen the writing on the wall with that when not only did he tell me that he was in love with Justin, he told Justin that he was in love with Justin. Like, how much he was in love with him and how much he was into him. And not just once. When my ex started hanging out with me less and hanging out with him more, and then it all kind of started making sense. It felt like that not only was he distancing himself because maybe it was too difficult to be around me, because I was too sad or too unhappy or too upset or whatever, he's also distancing himself because he has found a new infatuation. And to Justin's credit, very much to Justin's credit, when my ex told him, he was like, hey, thank you. I'm very flattered, but I'm not interested. Because, he wasn't into dudes. And I always thought that was very cool of him. Very cool of him. He didn't freak out, didn't stop being friends with him. He just said thank you, and that was that. But unfortunately, then things took a turn from bad to worse in that situation. I said a few minutes back that I know my ex better than everyone. I know how he operates. A lot of what people know my ex as is very much the surface, which is true for most anybody. You really only show the real you to people that you can trust, that kind of thing. And after, going on 12 years here, yeah, I could safely say that I knew my ex better than anyone on the planet. One of his favorite sayings about himself was that he could manipulate anyone and anything to get what he wanted. But my ex had a certain psychopathy about him when it came to getting what he wanted or getting an outcome in a situation that he wanted. Even though I could see through it most of the time, it still worked on me occasionally. He would push my buttons to make me mad because he enjoyed watching me get upset because he liked getting a rise out of me. That gave him power. And once I realized that, it stopped working anymore. I'm not saying he was a crappy, horrible person. I would not date a crappy, horrible person. I'm just saying when he wanted something, he would, Machiavellian his way into how he could move and maneuver and move those chess pieces around to play the game. But the problem with the situation there with all of us was he started playing Justin and I against each other. I'm just as disappointed with myself as I am upset with him about it all, because I used to be wise to his machinations. I used to be very, keen. It usually didn't involve me. So if I saw he was making a move, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. All right, good luck. But I was I wasn't myself, and I certainly wasn't of sound mind or body. Clearly. And he knew that. I was low. I was I was vulnerable. And I honestly believe that he used that to his advantage. And, he had his sights set. And my ex has this thing where when he gets laser focus, watch out. But if I had been 100% aware, had all my faculties about me, I would have seen through it a lot sooner. Because he was, I hate to say snake in the grass, but it's kind of what it was. And he was, moving and planning. So, and I think that him telling me that he loved Justin was also a purposeful thing. I think he did that on purpose. I took it at first that he was honest with me. And that was a sign of how strong we were. I think he was doing it to plant a seed in my head of jealousy and doubt. One, then, that he could water and watch sprout and grow, which is exactly what happened. And I'll tell you right now, if he were sitting right here, right beside me, I guarantee you he would not disagree with anything I said. In fact, he would be proud of his ability to do what he does, because he always was. So I'm not throwing him under the bus to try and make him look like the bad guy. These are just the facts of his personality. But again, it is my point of view, so it is what it is. Take it for what you will. It was, talking how great Justin was, coupled with ignoring any pleas for help. Please hang out with me. Let's watch a movie together. Hey, there's a pay-per-view on Sunday. You want to watch it with me? Oh, no, you're going out with Justin. Oh, and then it would be putting water on that seed so that it would sprout. And it did. I grew to resent Justin. It sucks because he did nothing wrong. He did absolutely nothing wrong. We were being like two pieces on a chessboard. I usually caught the situation before I was even placed on the chessboard. In this situation, I was already on the chessboard being moved around. Yeah, it wasn't really, it wasn't good between us after that. I think our friendship, any friendship we could have had, was sabotaged after he actively started pushing me away and trying to reel in Justin and make me jealous, essentially, is what was happening. And it was working. My boyfriend already told me that he was in love with someone else that he hangs out with all the time. I knew Justin wasn't a threat. But there was always that doubt in the back of my mind. What if the fourth or fifth or sixth time that, my ex says that he loves him, it works? What if Justin says, you know what? We get along really good. We're such good friends. You've chosen me over your ex because that's clearly not working. So let's give it a shot. I'm not into guys, but hell, let's give it a shot. The possibility was there. I knew it wasn't. I knew Justin wasn't gay or bi or anything. But at the time, you don't know. And especially when your ex is going out of your way to show how great that relationship is that they have. Things soured between us after that. I regret that entire situation happening. And I have two major regrets coming out of that. Regret number one is that I didn't see through it faster, because I'm ashamed that I didn't. I understand why I didn't now looking back. Hindsight is 20/20, of course. But I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen through it a lot sooner. I should have dumped his ass right then. I mean, let's be blunt. He was trying to replace me, actively trying to replace me. And the second regret that I have is that the friendship that could have been. We wouldn't have been like super besties like he and my ex were, but I think we would have been good friends, and we had enough in common that I think we would have been good friends. And I regret that never happened. And it was never given the chance to. So there was a point, though, that eventually I think my ex got a little cocky and was playing his hand a little too hard, not only with trying to get Justin to like him, but in general. And he kind of went a little too far, and this is when he showed his hand. So here's an example of A, showing that there was manipulation going on, and B, when I became wise to it. One day, this was in the spring, early spring, like March, April of 2012, I confronted Justin. And I forget how it happened now. I forget how. But I remember I just was like, we need to talk. At the time, I didn't know, but looking back, he was just this unwitting participant in my ex's game. I don't think he ever saw through it, though. I'm not saying that my ex didn't genuinely like him as a friend. I'm not saying that at all. They had a great friendship together, and they did have a lot in common, and they got along really well. I'm not disputing all of that. I'm disputing intent and purpose. But I'd had enough. I'd had enough of the jealousy. I'd had enough of the being played against me. I'd had enough of wanting my freaking boyfriend back. And I felt like that he was stealing him. I felt like that he was robbing me of, my person. Not realizing that that was the entire point of, the seed and the planting and the growth and all that. And I confronted him. And we're in the living room, we're having this discussion, and I look over, and my ex is sitting on the couch, staring down at the floor with the biggest smile on his face. And it wasn't like he was thinking of a joke. TV wasn't on, so he wasn't watching TV. It was very much, to be blunt, a eating grin. He was very pleased with himself at this moment. I looked over and he was just, had that just smug grin on his face. And the conversation ended. I just walked away. Because then I knew. I knew what was going on. He showed his hand, he dropped that facade long enough for me to finally see through it. And yeah, once I see what's going on, then yeah. And then immediately after that situation, I didn't confront him because I knew he would deny it and laugh in my face. That's what he does. Like, he'll kind of laugh. Like, if you confront him about something and he kind of just like laughs at you like you're stupid, if it's a poker game, that would be his tell. That's his giveaway. So, dear ex, if you're watching this, I've just given you your tell. That's how you admit that you know that whatever you're doing is whatever you're doing. You always ask me over the years how I knew, and that was one of the reasons. It's not your only one, but it was one of the big ones. And I knew that would happen if I confronted him about it. So instead, I tried to analyze it. Why is my ex getting this sick satisfaction out of watching me twist in the wind? Why is he getting this adrenaline high, this mental adrenaline high, I guess, if that makes sense, on playing Justin and I against each other, making me jealous, making sure we don't become friends? Was that the point? In addition to trying to get him to fall in love with him, to also keep us from being friends, because if we became friends, then I'm more of a threat to what he wants not working. I'm not saying that's what it was, but it's bears the thought. Ultimately, it felt like he was punishing me for something. It's that whole, kicking somebody while they're down. Like, why was he going out of his way to do that? I'm already down. I'm already beaten. I'm defeated. And I have a lot on my plate as it is. Why are you trying to knock the plate off the table? Like, instead, help me deal with this plate. Try to take some of the stuff off of my plate, put it on your plate. That'd be great. To this day, I still think that he was, in some way, he was punishing me for something. And it was all but confirmed later on. We'll get to that down the line in this story, but it'll be a little later. To this day, I just don't get what I did to deserve it. Now, before I continue to look like Mr. One-sided, throwing him under the bus guy, let's look at it from his point of view. For instance, how can I put this? I'm going to put two pictures on the screen. This picture is me before the accident, like literally months before the accident. And then this picture is in 2012 of the person that I had become. Now, if you look at those two, that doesn't look like the same person. And I also like showing the two pictures side by side like that because you can see how much the going on 3 years at this point of chronic pain every single day, and then being set back in December and dealing with that all over again every single day. I don't think people realize that pain drains you. You can look at those two pictures, put them up again. If you look at these two pictures, you can literally see the life being sucked out of me. My hair went from being this like poofy, curly, awesome thing. I loved my hair. And it was close to being the same length in both pictures. And picture two was how my hair looked every single day. The curl, the bounce, the life was gone. It was lifeless. You can see it in my eyes. I am drained. And I get it to an extent. I'm not the same guy he fell for. I'm not the same guy he grew to love. I'm not the same Philip that I was before the accident, clearly. Visually, I'm not. Mentally and emotionally, I'm not. I went from being the confident alpha male kind of breadwinner to this broken husk shell of what I used to be. And I always believed, in the early years, I believed that if I worked enough and I gave it time and I was patient, that I would get back to 100%. I would reclaim the old Philip. And it was around this time that I started to realize I could look in the mirror and I actually had to come to terms with the fact that, you know what? He's not coming back. So yeah, I can see it from his point of view. I can. That, you know, the person you love is morphing into someone else slowly before your eyes in every single conceivable way. I'm not saying it justifies anything. I can see how the allure was dissipating. It got so bad between us that my ex started sleeping on the floor in the brother's room. The brothers shared a room, and then we had a room who were side by side. Now, the on the floor bit isn't what was odd. So a little backstory on that. For a while now, me and my ex couldn't sleep in the same bed. Mainly because my ex is a very restless sleeper. When he would sleep, his leg, if this is the bed, his leg would just bounce off the bed. And it was every night. It was just some weird REM sleep tic thing he had, some involuntary movement thing. Also, my ex was almost 6'2". So he's very tall, skinny dude. You know, if you're in a full bed and someone is restless, they're going to more than likely hit you and bump into you during the night while they sleep. And if you remember, I'm sleeping on my back with pillows, and I have to be as still as possible. And being moved involuntarily, being startled, even to this day, you'll have to be very rigid. I have some range of motion now. Like, you'll see me move my arms and my head and whatnot now, but I'm moving within the confines of what I know I can do. And even then, occasionally you'll hear something pop or crack or move while I record. And it's just the nature of the beast. I'm very brittle, very fragile. But more so then, especially after second accident, but I'm more so then. So it's hard to share a bed with someone who is a restless sleeper that moves a lot, that can possibly, if he kicks me in the middle of the night, that could make any number of things happen. You know, if I'm trying to fall asleep and I'm finally hitting that little window of sleep, which exists to this day. I have a window of sleep that I have to try and take advantage of. If I go too soon or wait too long, I won't go to sleep. So if I have that little window of sleep as I'm laying there on my back and I'm just drifting off and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom on the bed, it's gonna wake you up. And it was extremely annoying. It didn't bother me before because I was a very deep sleeper before the accident. Well, the first accident. I wasn't now. I'm still a very light sleeper to this day. And so that's why he was sleeping on the floor or on the couch. Not because I wanted it, of course not, but because I couldn't sleep. I don't know what else to say about it. It was what it was, and it is still what it is to this day. And it's certainly not what I wish things were. I'm not happy about it. I wasn't happy about it then. I don't get to cuddle or fall asleep in the arms of the person I love. Yay. And that's what I had to kind of come to terms with in my life, was that I can't dwell on these things. I can't. They just have to be what they are and accept them for what they are and just deal with it. Because if I dwell on them, I will not survive. If I dwell on all of the loss and negativity and pain and all of it, I will not survive. And that was one of the things I had to accept it for what it was. So I get from his point of view then also how the distance was already there, but I always thought our bond was strong enough as people that the physical stuff was just physical stuff. It's just the hand we've been dealt, you know, and I wasn't happy about any of it. I know he wasn't either, so I understand from his point of view. I get it. The sleeping on the floor thing was not what was weird. The sleeping on the floor in the brother's room was weird. It was kind of a warning sign for me that maybe this is a bit more serious than I thought. Our relationship issues are more serious than I thought. Because I always assumed that eventually we would talk and things would be evened out and work out. And when the person that you love is in love with someone else and they're very aggressive about it and they're moving the chess pieces around and you can feel them drifting away, your relationship is fracturing because they're devoting all of their extra time and energy into that someone else. You know, he has that tunnel vision focus, that new goal. So if someone is hanging out with someone else and they're not even trying to work on the relationship or even understand what that other person is going through, they're going through hard times, and I get that. And so he's going through hard times. He's not trying. There's a severe lack of empathy on purpose because he has this goal, as said, this new goal. And then where was I given the fair chance to even try and mend the gap? I'm not only trying to figure out my relationship, but I'm also mired in all of his other stuff. It's just this chaos, this like chaos of pain, and I'm getting more dumped on me because of what's going on. It really, it amped up after the second accident because from everyone, really. It was just like, it's not that bad. Pick yourself up and move on. It's not that easy. I lost all momentum. Fate just pretty much screwed me because it waited until the exact moment that I was turning a corner and then took it all away, pulled the rug out from under me and laughed as I fell. And no one understood what that second accident did to me. No one understood the toll it took on me. Not even the one person who should have understood more than anyone. Like emotionally and physically, I don't think he ever really got how bad it was for me. And how it just continued and it never ended and I never got better. And right when I started to get better, boom, second accident, back to the beginning. Here we go again. Second verse, same as the first, and it's 2 freaking years long. I'm stuck in a room. I'm stuck in my head. I'm stuck in this body that will not heal. I'm stuck in every single way. He wasn't around to talk to. And if he was around, he didn't want to talk to me. I wasn't a consideration much. And I became less and less of one as time went on. I think my ex was just looking for exits. And he was searching hard for ways to not forget about me because I'm there. And he did have to stick around. We'll get to that in a bit. I don't know how to put it. I'm just there stuck every single day. And I want him to know that. If you ever watch this, I was in that house every single day. Now I know you saw some stuff. I know, I heard the stories about the verbal and physical abuse that you saw. You could hop in the car with Justin or go leave on your own and you could just leave and go and just escape and get out. I'm stuck in this house. I'm a prisoner in my body. I'm a prisoner in my head. I have no lifelines to anything. I'm there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single week. I'm dealing with my body going through the same stuff and I'm trying to find any reason to hang on and keep going another day. And I desperately want my boyfriend back. And I can't because he doesn't want to come back. He is looking for his way out. I didn't realize it. So at the time, I'm just confused. And maybe a way out is too strong, too harsh, but it felt like maybe he was just looking for his own escape. Maybe he was just looking for his own release. Again, devil's advocate, looking at it from his point of view. And I understand that. You can find, that escape, that release, that solace somewhere else, but not have to distance yourself or take it out on or manipulate this person who's already defeated. That's just what it felt like from my point of view, my side of the story. So I'm very, cognizant of that. I realize that. I'm not trying to go overboard in skewing the situation. These are just how things happen. Now, remember earlier when I said that we were paying the $35 a week to the family to help out? A few months later, we're in the spring of 2012. And the dad asks us if we can go from 35 to 100. And we were okay. At this point, we're paying $400 a month. The reason he was asking for more was because he was starting to do his own entrepreneurial thing. And, his thing was, if you can help us out here, this will make it easier for me to try and get my business off the ground. And we're like, okay, no problem. He did promise us, though, that the amount would go back down if things started taking off. Put a pin in that. But back to the relationship, there I am, I'm watching it slowly decline. And then it went full drop. My ex and Justin start hanging out with some new friends. I think they met them through work or they're mutual friends of Justin's. I don't quite recall. But they start hanging out with these new friends. In the group of new friends was a guy. And we'll call this guy Austin. Now, on paper, no big deal. Be friends with whoever you want. Even if historically, even if there are people I didn't get along with, have a good time. See you when you get home. I don't need to get along with your friends for your friends to be your friends. So the problem with Austin was gay and 19 and very attractive and very personable. And most importantly to me, was that Austin was healthy. My ex and Justin started hanging out with them in their trailer. Much like my ex did with Justin. Remember how I said earlier also that my ex, when he gets his sights set on something, he will turn into a chameleon? This time, he wasn't being subtle at all. So any extra money that he would have, instead of going into the bank, it went to new clothes. His style changed significantly. Just kind of like when he was kind of interested in Justin, he got a lot more band shirts of Rush and Grateful Dead and Pink Floyd that he didn't have before. And again, maybe it was coincidence. I don't know. This was not. He started just changing the way he dressed. And I thought it was really weird at first. But then I finally met Austin and it clicked. Because when I met Austin, my ex was dressing just like Austin. I'm talking like freaking Jennifer Jason Leigh comes down the stairs in Single White Female and Bridget Fonda's like, what the hell? I'm talking like copycat. I picked up on it right away then. I was like, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. If he were here to defend himself, he might have a rationale behind that. But I also know that he likes to move the pieces around and whatnot. And there's no way you just change your style overnight. Instead of squirreling money away, you start doing this, and then you find out why. It lines up too perfectly. And I know I sound maybe paranoid. Again, maybe it was coincidence, but you don't change the way you look and dress to mirror someone else without doing it on purpose. And I knew what the intent was. And unlike Justin, Austin was a threat. A very real threat. And as said, when my ex wants something and he gets that laser focus, he will do anything he can in his power to try and make it happen. That's just part of his personality. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, because God forbid I jump to conclusions and then push him away even more, because, oh, Philip's overreacting now. Am I though, or are you just doing that so you can say that and then still have the power? It was pretty much confirmed for me. Well, two ways it was confirmed for me. But the minor way was that my ex, out of nowhere, went vegetarian. Now, I had gone vegetarian a couple times in our relationship, and it never stuck. I know why now it didn't, now that I know more about nutrition and food. But he never did. It was something he just didn't want to do. But all of a sudden, he's vegetarian. But then I found out Austin's vegetarian. He's listening to like different music now all over again. Found out it was the same music that Austin liked. So my ex is full on chameleon mode. He is trying to assimilate Jennifer Jason Leigh style, Single White Female, to Austin. Change the way he looks, change the way he dresses, change the stuff he listens to, change the way he eats. You know, he even went so far as to lie about his age. I said Austin was 19. My ex at the time was, I think, 34, 35. Now, granted, we both looked young for our age. Even before the accident, like the photo I just showed you earlier of me, I was 32 there. And I was even guilty of lying about my age in the past. So that wasn't so much like me on my high horse about that one, but it was just a fact of the situation. He was lying to all these people saying he was 25. So if you're 19 and you're 35, 34, 35, and you want someone to like you, if you go a little lower, the chances that they'll like you back, if you can pass for that age, are probably greater. It depends on the person, obviously. Maybe a 19-year-old doesn't mind age. But if you don't know that, you're going to play it safe. Now, I heard through the grapevine, and this is hearsay, so I can't put a lot of stock into this, but I heard through the grapevine that he had actually been telling Austin and everyone else there, like the people that lived in the trailer, those friends, that he and I were done. And that we'd been done for a while, but we hadn't formally broken up yet. And I asked him, and he denied it. And I also asked, is anything going on? Just tell me. Like, I think after 12 years, I think I've earned a little bit of respect. Like, even if you're pissed at me, even if you blame me for everything, okay, makes no sense, not fair, but okay. Can you at least be honest in this one moment? And he looked me right in the face and said nothing was going on, that they were just friends. I understood the trouble and the strain on our relationship. And I understood his side of it. I always try to. I could look through his eyes and understand how things weren't easy for him too. I still wanted to believe him. that he wouldn't lie to me. Not like this. This was serious. This was serious. To me, at least. Further strain came when the dad's business started taking off in a big way. He was very successful, but we never went back down from 100 to 35. On one hand, someone could say they gave you a place to live. They saved you from being homeless, all of that. So let sleeping dogs lie. And we did. We didn't bring it up because in fits of anger in the past, at least twice, we'd been threatened and or told to get out. And then the dad would calm down a couple hours later and we were told, no, it's okay, you can stay. So we didn't want to like test those waters. But the issue that we had was the dad started buying frivolous things. Some of it was business related, but he was buying more than needed, like extras of things, which I get having backups. But if you can afford backups, then maybe can we go from 100 to 50 so we can put some money in the bank? Or at this point, give my ex more money to spend on clothes. But you know, the dad was buying like new electronics and video cameras and drones. This is back in like 2012 when drones were kind of new. And much like when, you know, computers were new and, you know, smartphones were new, when they're new, they're expensive. These are not cheap things. Drones are not cheap. And if you can afford to buy them, you have expendable money. And this was a complete like vanity purchase. I'll never forget the look on my ex's face when the dad showed the drone to my ex. If you can take the look of, are you kidding me? That was the look. I wonder to this day if that was the final straw for him as far as wanting to be there. He wasn't happy. But you can't say anything, of course, because how dare you? So it was just this weird continuing storm of things happening, from distancing himself to trying to make Justin happen to that not working, and then just turned into this like perfect storm of, you know, Austin showing up, and Austin is a much better candidate now than Justin was and a much more viable candidate. And then the issue with Austin became even more of a problem because not only was he going over there to hang out, he was staying the night a lot. And still, supposedly nothing's going on. He said he slept on the couch or on the floor in Austin's room, but nothing's going on. I will never accuse him or Austin of anything that happened or saying that anything did happen, but I know my ex. I said before, I know him. If you are a 35-year-old gay man and you meet a 19, very attractive, very personable, very cool personality, awesome dude, and you're not only spending the night, but you're sleeping on his floor, and you've changed the way you dress and the way you eat and the music you listen to. I can't say for sure because I don't have proof, but yeah, come on. There I am, you know, I'm watching my relationship just slip through my fingers, and there is nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. Clearly now, my ex is in full-on exit strategy mode, and I see it now. You know, I think Justin was attempt one, but you know, that was a dead end that everyone knew was a dead end. This has distinct possibility, especially if you were trying to go out of your way to woo someone and use the fabrications of yourself to seem desirable. To, you know, look how much we have in common. Look how alike we are. We like the same things. And then the day of reckoning came. One day the dad got a virus on his work computer and made everyone in the house scan their computers, which makes sense. Viruses can travel over a network. I know me and the younger brother were quite computer savvy. We were pretty confident we didn't have a virus. The younger brother scans his and Justin's computer. I scanned mine and my ex's computer. Now these are 4 separate computers. We're clear, like I'm clear and then the younger brother is clear. Now my ex had 2 viruses. And neither of them were what the dad had on his computer. They were 2 different viruses. One, I think, was just your regular virus. It was attached to some really strange files that, yeah, we'll leave it at that. They were weird files. The second virus was attached to a zip file. The zip file was connected to a folder. The folder had pictures. Inside that folder, those pictures were of Austin. And Austin was nude. He was naked. And we're not talking just like posing selfie shot. We're talking like set up the camera, very graphic. By this time, I had my own phone. So I text my ex. And I let him know what happened. I was like, hey, the dad had a virus, made us all scan our computers. I scanned yours for you, which was not out of the ordinary because, you know, I'd been doing computer stuff like that since like the early 2000s. So I was very adept at doing that kind of stuff. So it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to do that and to fix it and clean it, and there you go. And so I wrote, I was like, I want you to know that I wasn't snooping. I wasn't invading your privacy, because I've always been all about respecting that. But I found the pictures. And he just wrote back, okay. He still said there was nothing going on. You know, to this day, I don't know. But the evidence is certainly there. Come on. So one of the foreshadowing things that I had from earlier that we put a pin in, or, you know, put back here in our head to bring up later, was after my mom abandoned me and that promise he made. You remember that? Where he said, you know, I'll never abandon you. I won't abandon you like she did. I promise. Well, let's put it this way. One day he was there, and the next day he was gone. And I don't mean spent the night at Austin's and didn't come home. I mean, in the middle of the night, packed his stuff and moved in to the trailer with Austin. He said he had his own room, that they still weren't a thing. Again, I don't know, but this is just the facts. I'm laying out the facts. And so I wake up, and it was the younger brother who had to tell me. He said, your ex moved out in the middle of the night. I want it to be known that when I say I was stuck there, I was forcibly stuck there, purposefully stuck there. I was never invited to go anywhere. And looking back on it, I think that's completely by design. It's just like my ex had spent a year slowly and deliberately building a life for himself. You know, he spent a year constructing this new life for himself that didn't include me. And it was done on purpose. And, you know, I didn't see it at the time. As said, you know, the duality of my condition, with my mental state, with, I can't really articulate how much stuff I was going through. The second accident really messed me up for a long time. It wasn't like I bounced back after a couple months and I'm good. No. Like it took a couple months just to get out of the woods of wanting to kill myself. And that was strength I found in me, because there was no one there to try and, you know, give me that log to get me out of the quicksand. You know, I did that myself. I got myself out of those woods just by the strength of my will to live and my appreciation for being alive. I've said in earlier videos, we have one consciousness on this planet, and I respect that. And I didn't want to end it, but I came damn close. I'm not trying to, you know, brag or seem like I'm like some, you know, cocky person. I'm not. I clearly have no right to be. So, you know, I said I didn't see what was going on at the time. And then by the time I did, it was too late. Another foreshadowing thing was when I said that my ex still had an interest in me, even though he was distancing himself, even though we were supposedly broken up, and even though he was staying the night at this hot 19-year-old gay guy's house, and then eventually moved in with hot 19-year-old gay guy. He never completely severed the cord because he had a vested interest in me still. And that interest was purely monetary. My ex's name was also on the car accident case, which had not been settled yet. So he needs to stick around long enough to get his share. Put a giant pin in that, because we will cover that in the next part of the story when I talk about the lawsuit. And speaking of money, after my ex disappeared like a thief in the night, I found out that he had not been paying the dad the $100 a week. I don't know how long this went on for. The dad was very upset about it, and he held it against me. Our relationship, even as volatile as he was, it wasn't quite the same after my ex moved out. But I have a few theories about that as well. So there we are. My ex has moved out, in with Austin, And now I am essentially alone. Even after I moved out, I was still kind of holding on to the hope that maybe he just needed to not be in that situation. But at the same time, look at it from my point of view. I'm in that same mindset. I didn't want to be there either. It was not pleasant. And I'm dealing with all of this on top of it. And I'm doing it all by myself. And I don't want to. So I asked him to talk. If he could come over and we could have a talk. I knew it was the last grasp for me in trying to save. We're going on 13 years. You wouldn't throw it away over this. You wouldn't, after everything we've been through. To me, it was nothing that we couldn't fix. This was the love of my life. This was my soulmate. And I am not going to go down without a fight. I will fight a gorgeous 19-year-old if I have to, And in a very kind of vindictive way, I thought to myself, this can't be the way this ends. Not after all the stuff I forgave. And if you ever watch this, you know what I'm talking about. I am not going to tell the world, but you know. You remember being on your knees in tears in front of me, begging me not to leave you because of how badly you messed up. And that wasn't the only time, but every time, I chose you. I chose you over a 20-year-old who was very good looking and had a great personality, and I got along with great. And I could have seen myself have a life with that guy. I was 28, he was 20, so I was flattered that someone younger would be into me like that. Didn't lie about my age on that one. Not gonna throw stones, but, facts are facts. And the fact is, I forgave so much. I forgave the times that I should have left you in my rear view and just left you in dust. And I didn't. I chose you every single time. Yes, I was angry about my ex going to jail and not being there and the stuff with Justin and actively chasing after Austin. And after all of that, I still had hope. And yeah, we had our rough moments. Everyone does. But we had something special. We really did. I can't put it into words. Like if you knew us as a couple, you know what I'm talking about. I got it right the first time, I didn't need time after time after time to find my soulmate. I waited until I found the right guy, and I did. I was proud of that. And I wanted that one guy, that first guy, to be the last guy. So yeah, I still had hope. I don't know why he agreed to the talk, honestly. But he did. He came over, and I just poured my heart out. Like I said, this was the last chance. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. Because if there's anything I know about myself, from my youth and teenage years with my mom to high school and all the crap there, to my adulthood, to everything, to the accidents, to this. One thing I know about myself to this day, I'm a fighter. And I will not give up, and I will not go down without a fight. And that's what this was. We were in the 9th round, and I had been knocked out, but I wasn't down. I was getting back up, and I was trying to make it work. 2 things that are important from this talk, though. I asked him point blank, when did things start falling apart for you? And he said that it was after the second accident. And I kind of figured. Because that's when he actively started aggressively pursuing Justin and hanging out less and all of that. And it was what he said after that that will always stick with me to this day. And I quote, I decided then that I didn't want to put my life on hold anymore. And that one still stings to this day. To know that I went from the love of someone's life to nothing more than an annoying burden. That I had been abandoned again after being promised that it would never happen. Abandoned by my mom. And now by the one person that I trusted more than anyone to not do that, that promised me he wouldn't. The one person I thought would be by my side through the thick and the thin, just like I'd been there for him. And the thing that stings the most is not just that stings, it hurts. To this day it hurts. It's been 6 years since I heard that. But when I forgave you for all the stuff that happened, it was because you did things wrong. You needed forgiven. When the shoe was on the other foot, I had nothing to be forgiven for, because I didn't do anything wrong. And I hate to be the victim. I hate to be the martyr. I don't like people that do that, and I try not to. But I was being persecuted and having stuff held against me that was not my fault. None of it. Like, look at that from my point of view. Accident, mom, cops, evicted, almost homeless, in with family. That's stressful. Second accident, you fall in love with someone else. You try really hard to make that happen. You ignore me. You push me away. You slowly and deliberately choke the life out of 13 years. And you did it in a year. If you ever wonder how good my ex is, that's all the proof you need. Because like I said, when he wants something, he'll do everything he can in his power to make sure it happens. And when he decided that he was done, yeah. I had to watch all of this happen, knowing that there was nothing I could do about it. Because if someone raises the bridge of communication on you and there's no path, what are you going to do? If they've made up their mind, this is what they want, this is what they're doing, and they methodically work towards their new goal, what can you possibly do? Something else that is important from this talk, this last talk, like this at least, I guess, I still consider this our last official talk as boyfriends. I'm pouring my heart out because what do I have to lose? I'm already losing, aka sort of lost. And yeah, laid it all on the line. Laid it all on the line. After I was done, his reaction was this. Come here. And I said, no. I want you to want to work on it. I want you to want to embrace me because you want to embrace me, because you love me. Not because you feel obligated to due to length of time or pity. I don't want that. And then after that, I was standing up and he was sitting on the bed, on the edge of the bed, and he was staring at the ground. You could tell that we both knew how serious this was. Part of me wants to think that he finally realized the gravity of everything that he had been doing, but that would take, self-awareness and an admission of intent. And I don't think he was quite there yet. If he ever got there at all, I don't know. But yeah, he's sitting there and I'm standing up and I look right at him and I quote, again, word for word, I said this to him. If you leave me here, if you leave me like this, I will never, ever take you back. And he just nodded and he said, I know. And then I left and I went for the longest, most emotional walk. That was the last time we talked like that. And that was in December 2012. To put it in perspective, my ex moved out of the house about a week and a half before Christmas. So, and 3 years since I was told that I would not be abandoned. And there we are. My relationship is over. And yeah, that was pretty much that. There are a few things that I wanted to share before I start wrapping this up that I think can just, that I guess can just shed some light on how things were in this time. My ex took Justin to his family reunion. That always stung. I never told him that. If he ever watches this, yeah. It stung mainly because I worked really hard to get his family to accept me. You know, they're very Southern, Bible, you know, oh, our son's gay, kick him out of the house kind of people. And I worked hard, real hard to earn their respect. For the first 4 years, I wasn't on the Christmas cards. I didn't get any kind of like birthday card. But then eventually I did. Eventually I got presents and I got birthday cards and my name was on the Christmas cards. I busted my ass. I defended him. I hope he remembers that. Early on, when we first met, you were broken. Let's talk about that. We'll be vague. But you had just been through a life-altering event yourself. And your family was completely eviscerating you emotionally and mentally about it. They were breaking you down. And I stood up to them. I fought for you. I stood up to your friend who was manipulating you about all of it. I put them in their place, and they never did it again. When we met, you were broken, completely broken. And I did my best to help put you back together. Yeah, it's just kind of occurring to me now that, yes, it's a different situation. You knew me as my best self, but then you watched me become that broken shell of who I used to be. I never saw you before what happened to you happened. I knew the broken shell guy, and I did what I could. But, yeah. So yeah, the family reunion thing, that bugged me. After he had moved out and we had our talk and the writing was on the wall, we started dividing our stuff up. And we had a very large DVD and video game collection that we were proud of. And we started dividing it up. We're sitting there on the floor in the room at the house trying to see who gets what. And I'll never forget how he acted during it. It was almost giddy. Like he was excited to be doing this. And I'm sitting there fighting back tears. I didn't want it to be over. I didn't want to give up. This was another kind of eye-opening moment for me because we're dividing it up and I'm being fair. Like, if you've ever went through, I call it a going out of business sale, take what you want, you know? I don't care, whatever. That kind of just whatever. You know, you want all the Final Fantasy games? Fine. You want all the RPG games? Fine. You know, I bought that one for myself, but fine, take it. But when we got to the DVDs, then I started to kind of wise up to what was going on. So we're dividing them up, and then he starts taking stuff that, no. You don't get Soap Dish. You don't get Strangers with Candy. Because he'd already taken Soap Dish and Strangers with Candy, all the seasons, over to Austin's to show Austin and friends. And he was talking about how much they loved them and how cool it was that he showed that to them and how they couldn't wait for him to show them more stuff. I showed that to him. He had never heard of Soap Dish before we met. He had never heard of Strangers with Candy before we met. I introduced those things to him. He was using the stuff that I introduced to him to woo another guy. On top of, the deck was stacked against me already. You know, hot, 19, personable, you know, great guy from all accounts. Do you need, like, what more ammunition do you need to get this guy to like you? And the stuff that you're using, the stuff that you're co-opting me to someone else. I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but that's how I felt about it. So he grabs Soap Dish and Strangers with Candy and puts them in his pile. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Those are mine. I had those before I met you. Those don't belong to you. I know you need them to look cool, but you apparently have enough money to go buy frivolous clothes that you don't need. You have enough money to go buy new copies of those to look cool in front of the people that you're trying to impress. And you can even pretend that you discovered them. I don't care. But those are mine. Put them back. You see the writing on the wall. Like, okay, I poured my heart out to him. He's come back to divide the assets up, and he's giddy and happy, and he's still trying to manipulate the situation to look better. He's still playing mind games with me. What in the actual did I do to deserve any of it? This is exactly how these things went down. So the people that knew us might think that I might sound bitter or I'm trying to paint him as the bad guy. If I wanted to, I could go in more detail about things. I'm not. I'm just laying out the facts as they happened. And our friends will attest to, I never asked any one of you to take a side. Not one of you. I never asked anyone to unfriend him or to stop talking to him. Nothing. You want to be friends with him? Fine. You want to be friends with me? Fine. But here's what happened. Here's what he did. The final story that relates to the ones I wanted to share was the day we went out Xmas shopping. We went Xmas shopping for the family. And he invited me along for some reason. I don't know why. But one of our favorite stores was Kohl's. So we went to Kohl's. That was hard. That was hard. That was because he was being friendly and jokey, and it was like how it was before, you know. It was that effortlessness, that ease of being. It's like when you have a dance partner that you've had for years, and you just know exactly how the moves are going to go, and you know exactly the rhythm. And that's what we had, and that's what was there that day that we were hanging out doing that. And I am just so torn because I've accepted that this is probably over. I haven't given up though. Still haven't given up because I'm a fool. This shows that we still have it. We still have it. We still connect. But then I had another eye-opening moment. We went to Burger King afterwards to get veggie burgers because he's vegetarian now. My hair was a little longer than it was in the picture I showed earlier, where it was all like frizzy and dead looking. And out of nowhere, he just stops and looks at me and he says, and I quote, "You should probably just keep your hair short from now on." Why? I had to excuse myself and go to the bathroom because I burst into tears. I kind of realized that the entire day was planned. It was another machination. It was set up to make me feel these things again, only to be cut right back down. So when I say I think he got some sick satisfaction out of doing what he did to me, it adds up. When you put me being broken and busted and physically just everything, like all of it, take away everything he had done that got us in that position in the first place, and then months later giving up and trying to get out and away. Think about, even if, and I look at it from his point of view, I have, but at the same time, you've already won. You're free. You're free. You no longer have any responsibility to me at all. You're free. Spread your wings and fly. Why do you need to keep cutting me so deep? What was the point? What's the point of being giddy and overly giddy and excited to be dividing up our stuff, only to try and cut me down with the stuff that you knew was going to bother me? Why take me out and have a great time? Go out of your way to have a great time, only to plan your moment to cut me down. Why? To this day, I still don't understand. And if you think that the playing field leveled out, it didn't. The hits keep on coming. Remember how I said when my ex moved out and then stopped paying and the dad was holding it against me, kind of resented me for it? It felt like everyone was blaming me for what was going on when I had zero control over anything. I am seriously just this guy where it just sits there and life's just like poof, 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 poof. About 2 months after my ex moved out, I think we're like in late February 2013, me and the dad are driving back from the chiropractor, and out of nowhere he just says, "Me and the family have been talking, and we want you out by May 1st. Just to drop a bombshell on someone, and then immediately it starts going back to joking again. Because then I'm sitting there shell-shocked. I'm just like, after everything, now this? And I'm stunned. And I have tears rolling down my face. And the dad looks over and sees it and says, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Someone could ask, "Well, did you fight for that?" No. It's not my house, not my family. The dad made that very clear. And I never even asked if it was the family that came to this conclusion or just him. I have my assumptions, but we'll leave it there. And it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I was going back to school. After everything that had happened, after everything I had been through, I was still trying. I was going back to school. I was trying to get a business degree. Because I thought, you know what? If I ever get healthy enough to work again, on top of having years of store manager experience, I can have this business degree. I can guarantee myself a pretty damn decent job and wage when that day comes. I was thinking about a future, our future. I was planning. I was doing my plan B. I said in an earlier video, I have a plan A, plan B, backups if I can. So plan A was being the ex would move out after a year, after the dad bumped up to 100. The dad got so successful in his business, he could actually afford new cars. And we're still paying $100 a week. So I'm not going to say that the dad was taking advantage of the situation, but I'm not going to not say that either. Everything that happened after I moved in was just one thing after another, 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 after another. Now I have no relationship, and now get out. So there I am with 2 months to be out, no money, a broken body that won't heal, from a second accident that robbed me of all momentum, that wasn't my fault, that if people had put sandbags in the car like it had been asked, I wouldn't be in that situation. I wouldn't be in the shape I am in now if not for that second accident. And that is the honest to God's truth. I have still, as I said in the last video, I have still not recovered to the point of being where I was the day before the second accident. And it has been almost 8 years later. I wonder if me, driving the car of the relationship, being the one in charge, the breadwinner, if that was a mistake. I wonder, because when it was time for my ex to take the wheel, not only did he fail, he kicked me to the back seat and then kicked me out of the car. It's like he forgot about the we and just focused on what he could do for himself. And yes, he was still paying the $400 a month. Again, not ignoring that. It's like he forgot that we were in this together until the end. You forgot that promise that we made to each other at the Grand Canyon. One that I still remember to this day. We'd celebrated 7 years together. We were technically common law. So when I refer to you as my ex-husband, that's why. The silver lining is that it took 2 major acts of God to actually finally split us up. So I guess that shows the lengths it took to make it happen. But I appreciated everything you did as far as supporting me there. But my justification comes in the form of what I referenced earlier. When the shoe was on the other foot, I was there for you. I supported you. I got you through it. I helped get you through it. I held you in bed and let you just bawl your eyes out because that's what you needed. But now think of it this way. Think about this situation. And think if the shoe was on the other foot now. There'd be no jail, no eviction, no almost homeless, no new house, no trying to replace you. Certainly there would have been no abandoning you at your lowest moment. I don't care if you were in 7 accidents. Well, then that's 7 accidents that we're going to get through together. Because it's kind of a cliche saying, but you know what? I'm ride or die. And I rode till the end, to the very bitter end. And if the shoe was on the other foot, I certainly wouldn't have taken advantage of your broken body and broken mind. If a store manager position opened up, you wouldn't hear me whining that, that's not what I want to do. I would take that. Because I know, just like I said to you, if you get that position, you make salary. You make salary, we can get out of here and we can start a new life and live comfortably. That's not what I want to do. Clearly, because you had other plans in mind. Do you think that I enjoyed working 70 to 80 hours at Blockbuster every week? just so that my store could stay open when they cut our hours to 30 hours a week for an entire staff? Do you think I liked being a store manager then when I got no overtime because I was salary? But I did it because it gave us a comfortable living. And I did it for us. But when it was your turn to reciprocate, you failed in spectacular fashion. And our friends, our mutual friends, you can be friends with them as long as you want. I don't care about that. But I want you to know the truth about things, my truth about things that happened. And I am not exaggerating anything. Everything that was said, everything that was done. And I've said, if I don't know for sure, then I don't know for sure. It's speculation on my part. Because I'm not going to say something's the truth if I don't know it is. It's interesting, and not in a good way, but it's interesting just in the it is what it is way. When you watch your relationship come to an end, or you've been in a relationship that did come to an end, the relationship ending is harder if you are the one still in love. Again, I'm not trying to play the victim. I'm not trying to play the martyr. But I had no control over anything in my life. And I don't think I was ever given a fair chance to not only work on anything, fix anything, myself included. I was re-injured at the hands of people who were negligent. And then 2 years later kicked out because I am no longer a monetary asset. But what I was going through was a direct result of being there. After being asked to move out, well, told to move out, I just sat there thinking, like, how much more can life take from me? Like, how many more middle fingers do I need to endure? When do I start getting propped up? When do I get momentum? When do I get a chance to have a fair shot, a fighting chance? Unfortunately, I did have to see him, my ex, a couple more times after the whole holiday season, like after our talk and the holidays and all that. And he and Justin are obviously still friends, even though my ex no longer lives there. So, he would come over with Austin. Yeah, at this point, I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like, whatever you need to do. You've already won. You've already, like, I am the dead horse that you're dancing on at this point. But whatever you need to do, go ahead. I'll just go to my room, which had no door, which is a completely involved backstory on that. And so, yeah, I couldn't shut the door and block it out. I'd go hide, put headphones on, and yeah. After being told to move out, which we'll get into in part 9, I didn't see my ex again until about 6 months ago. And that was complete happenstance. Almost 6 years. And yeah, it was weird. And I will share that story in a future video. So that is the story of how my almost 13-year relationship came to a painful, slow, and deliberate end. I guess you can think of it what you will. I'm not trying to sound like a jerk. I know people that know both of us. And I know people that will quite say, oh, that can't be true. That's not how it happened. And you're totally allowed to think that. Coming up next will be part 8, which will deal with a lawsuit. And if you think that things get better for me, spoiler, they don't. And then we'll pick up this part of the story in part 9 of me figuring out where to go from here. This is a weird one to go over because it's that mixture of rage, anger, resentment, sadness, regret. Do I wish things had happened differently? Yeah, but I don't know how they could have. The things that I was held accountable for were out of my control. And everything else was just varying degrees of it was a rough 2 years. Very rough 2 years. It kind of got to be when you slowly lose the person that you thought you would grow old with. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and end this now. If you've watched to the end, thank you for watching. And thank you for listening. And now you know the story. of how my baker's dozen went completely rotten. See you in the next video.